Hello, everyone. My name is Gitika Gorfi, and today I'm very excited and honored to be interviewing a very special space champion, Adora Nwodo. Adora is a multi-award-winning software engineer. She currently works at the intersection of the metaverse, cloud engineering, and artificial intelligence, and is passionate about the cloud and emerging technologies. She is also the vice president of the Nigerian chapter for VRAR Association. Her work there involves creating more awareness for virtual and augmented reality technologies. Apart from building and advocating for mixed reality technologies, Adora is a digital creator and the founder of NexaScale, a social enterprise aimed at fostering the growth and development of technology enthusiasts by providing resources and opportunities for project building and work experience, helping them start and scale their careers. She has courses online that teaches people about infrastructure automations. She has published multiple articles on software engineering, productivity, and career growth on her blog, AdoraHack, and she has a YouTube channel for AdoraHack where she posts tech content that could be useful to software developers. Currently, Adora is a student of LEAD in the Stanford University Graduate School of Business. Adora is the author of the popular book, Cloud Engineering for Beginners. This book is currently helping a lot of people start their career as cloud engineers. She is also the author of Beginning Azure DevOps, a book published by Wiley. Adora spends a lot of her time on Twitter and LinkedIn sharing about her experience as a woman in tech. And actually, this is how I met Adora. I met her through a mutual friend, and I got to learn about her work. And she spoke at IgnitedThinkers' first global space education summit in Tanzania. And I was immediately hooked by her passion for computer science, space exploration, and empowering the youth across the world. Adora is clearly a visionary aerospace sector leader, and I'm very excited to learn about how she got into her career today and the work that she's doing to empowering women and students across the world. So welcome, Adora. Thank you so much for taking your time to inspire the next generation of aerospace leaders.
Thank you so much. And that introduction was amazing. I couldn't have done it any better. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you have so many accomplishments. To know that you're such a young professional doing so much inspires me. I'm currently a student and I look up to incredible women like yourselves who are just changing the world and doing what they love and sharing it with others. So, really, thank you for doing this. And I wanted to just kick off our conversation by asking about your typical day. I can't believe you do so much. And so I'm curious to see, how do you generally structure your day? What does a day in the life of Adora look like?
It's different every day, to be honest. I wake up and I just wing it, to be honest. But the thing that I would say is one thing that is very consistent with me is that I plan what I want to get done for the day and I time box a lot of things. So I allocate time for everything. For me is considered work, whether it's my 9 to 5 or my nonprofit or my content creation. Everything is still work to me. And I have time for work and I also have time for play. I have time for family. I have time for friends. Obviously, because I do a lot more work than a bunch of people, I allocate a bit more time to work just so that I'm able to do a bunch of those things during the day. But that's typically, how it goes. And every day is different. Some days I wake up and I start working as early as 7 a.m. because there's a lot on my plate that I want to get done. And by afternoon, I'm taking a break, watching a movie or coming to cook or going to the mall or doing something. And then in the evening for like 1 hour or 2 hours, I'll pick up something, do it, and then log out for the day, video call my friends. I'm very big on video calling my friends. I think at this point they're tired of seeing my face. And then I like do that as well and sort of like end the day. Some days I wake up in the morning and I just decide that I want to do chores first and I start working by 11 or 12 or 1. So it really depends. So there's no like set in stone day in the life of Adora. If I shoot a video today, that is my day in the life, and I shoot a video tomorrow, that is my day in the life, there are 2 separate videos because it will be 2 kinds of days.
Yeah, and we love those types of schedules where you're keeping yourself busy. Every day is different. I'm definitely kind of similar to you in that every day I'd like to take it like an adventure. So that's great. And when I was reading a lot about your background, the thing that really stuck to me was how you started so many initiatives on your own. And I know that takes a lot of drive, purpose, inspiration, and motivation to do so. And so, especially with your work at NexaScale, I'm curious, what was the inspiration behind founding NexaScale, and kind of what kept you going with the work that you're doing? Could you share a little bit more about NexaScale?
Okay, so I've been doing a bunch of stuff for a while. I've been connected to communities, to entry-level people in tech. I, give advice, inspire people, buy laptops for people once in a while, pay for courses for people once in a while, just like contributes to the community. I've written books, sold some of those books, giving some of those books out for free, just, different things to help the community grow. And there's one thing that I noticed that was happening where it's like a lot of people say they they like they have maybe one certification or the other, and then they're in my DMs sending their resumes that they're looking for jobs. And I mean, like, in different parts of the world, right, we know that it's always harder for, especially now in this current economic situation, it's harder for people that don't have experience to get their first jobs. And I've helped some people by connecting them to opportunities, or like, some of those opportunities might be jobs, some of them might be people, some of them might be boot camps, or just even giving them advice on, hey, do this XYZ thing. And then they come back to me months after and they're like, hey, I tried this thing that you said. And someone reached out to me and told me a couple of months ago that they tried some strategies that I gave them, like advice I gave them, and they recently got a remote job in Amsterdam from Nigeria. And I was like, wow. Because I remember that I tweeted about it because I was so excited about that person. And I'm just like, I think I want to scale this thing. I'm tired of doing this in like little buckets and tiny silos. And I think I just want to scale this thing to empower more people. Now, when we started, it was like, I'm connecting people to opportunities that help them start and scale their tech career. So sometimes those opportunities might be jobs. Other times it might be internship opportunities. Other times it might be projects, because a lot of times you'd see that these people that have these skills, that have, gone to these different boot camps or taking these different courses, the projects they have are projects from the boot camp, right? They've not built something else. And as a newbie person, what makes you stand out is when you can show employers your ability to build stuff. So sometimes as well, come up with like crazy projects and we're like, okay, you know what? Let's build this thing and let's have these interns build it. Let's pay them a stipend. The stipend is just so that they're motivated to show up every day. But the main goal is, they're building this thing and it's going to be part of their portfolio when they eventually get interviews. So we empower people by like, different ways, giving them jobs or connecting them to internships, or creating a community for people to even like learn from each other, because that's a very big thing. Or even, creating internal projects for people to work on and they get paid. And, with those internal projects, they are now building experience. It's like they're interning in the community. So like, I don't know if that makes sense. So that was like the model. And that's what we're doing now. I'm fortunate to have built what I would call a formidable team, because those people, without me, like the volunteers and, the other people, the core team, as well as the volunteers, everybody brings their best every single day to make it work. And we all have full-time jobs, right? And, people still show up to make NexaScale work for the people that it needs to work for. Like, the community is steady growing, people are contributing, people are getting opportunities from the community. And it's just something that is amazing to me. And I'm like really happy that I even sat down to think about, creating that in the first place. Beyond that as well, we recently did something about laptops to help people. Obviously, we cannot buy one laptop for everybody that needs a laptop. So we decided that, okay, you know what, we're going to create this model that allows people to share laptops. So we buy laptops, we put them in hubs, we give these people access to those hubs. They go into those hubs as identified community members, and they're able to use those laptops anytime, right? And then, as they're learning and growing or applying for jobs, hopefully when they get their job, the company gives them a laptop and they're no longer laptopless. Or they even continue, they write three, because some people are technical writers, right? They do freelance writing. So they write 3 articles, they get paid $300 3 times, that's $900. And now they're able to take some part of that money and buy a laptop as well. So, the point is just temporarily giving people access to laptops that they can share until they're able to get their own. And a bunch of other initiatives will come up from this as well. But that's how we've been looking at it. And that's sort of where we started from.
Wow, I think that's so inspiring. I get lots of messages all the time like, hey, this is my CV. Can you look at it? Or how do I get internship opportunities? Or how can I find mentors? And I'm sure you get even more of those. And so I can't imagine the way you capitalized on that. You're like, hey, I can see that this has some sort of impact on an individual's life. Let me make this into something bigger and influence more people around the world. I think it's incredible how you had that thought and then made it a reality to make a large impact. And especially the work you're doing with connecting people with those right mentors or those right resources and finding ways to give them work to learn, to grow, to build a career. I think that's great. And clearly just coming up with idea and doing it sounds so simple, but it's not always that easy. And so with whether it be publishing your book or starting your YouTube channel or having so many open source free resources for individuals to access, or with now with NexaScale, what was that motivation that kept you going? Because this is, as you mentioned, outside of your full-time job. So it definitely takes maybe a personal experience that motivated you to do this. Maybe it was seeing someone's impact. You kind of mentioned this already. What was the motivation that kind of kept you going? Was it the change you were seeing it, or was it a personal experience that kind of kept you going?
I think it was just the fact that, so I have this mantra. So I believe in giving all of myself and dying empty. So I am one of those people that want to do as much I can do for the world and make it a better place. And I've been doing that all my life, to be honest. From primary school, secondary school, I was that person that when it's close to exam, people would gather around me because I'm teaching them math. And then in university, I was making impacts in other places, sometimes through because I'm very religious as well. So sometimes through church things, or sometimes through school things or other kinds of social things. I've been that kind of person. So graduating and starting my career as well sort of made sense for me to keep being that person. But yeah, there's so many reasons, there's so many times when I've woken up and I'm like, I think I want to just focus on one thing and stop the rest. But when you get a message from someone saying, hi, I read your book last week and I've gone ahead to take my Azure certification, and your Azure DevOps book helped me pass, or something like that, it's like this thing, even if it's this one person, I'm going to put out the next thing, because even if it's only one person that thing impacts,
It's
that's
huge.
enough, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's like what keeps me going sometimes is the fact that I know that people, if I stop doing that thing, I'm not saying that those people will not have access to things that will change their life. But the truth is, at least their story today is that I gave them a platform to do XYZ, right? So why stop? You are going to be the hero in someone else's story, you are going to be the villain in someone else's story. Might as well just do what you have to do to make the world a better place before you have to leave it. So that's what drives a bunch of all these things that I do. And I really just want to help as many people as I can. I'm not Jesus, I can't save everybody. I don't even think the Jesus that I served was able to save everybody, if I'm being honest. So I'm not trying to save everybody, but I'm trying to do as much as I can to make my community better than I met it.
That's so beautiful. If everybody thought like you, we would have such an incredible and beautiful world. I think just hearing you talk about it, I could see that you're so inspired, and you are inspiring so many people around the world with your work. And just to know that it impacts even one person, I know is huge. When I went to Tanzania to do the education summit, a university student came up to me and was like, without the summit, I would have never about space as something real in Tanzania. I would have never even believed that I could do this. And now seeing you here in person, it made me believe it. And so I can relate with what you're saying is if it even impacts one person, you're like, I want to do this all the time. I want to keep going. I want to impact more students and at least get this into people's minds and give them a platform. So that's incredible what you're doing. And with your work in computer science, as you've done a lot of work in empowering people around the world with technology, with programming, with artificial intelligence. How did you end up combining it with space? Where did your fascination for aerospace engineering, space exploration, SpaceX kind of come in? I'm curious what was the aha moment that made you combine these two somewhat separate entities together?
I'm very inquisitive, and I hope that it doesn't stress me out as I get older. I made a friend towards the end of last year, right? And she's an amazing person. She has a degree in aerospace engineering and computer science. She's a software engineer. She has like a startup that she's building. Like she has a full-time job. She has a startup she's building, and she has an NGO that, like, she's managing as well. She's investing in real estate. She's a math tutor. Like she's doing like a lot of stuff, right? And I think the first time, I mean, we see space exploration on TV, we hear about all these things, people exploring every day. There's like, oh, there's this asteroid that is about to hit Earth. NASA is giving you something to worry about. So, like, space exploration wasn't something that was new to me, if that makes sense. It was more, I just felt like it was that thing and I am, my own thing. But like, interacting with her, learning from her, like I said, I'm someone that is very inquisitive. So I went back on my own to sort of like read about aerospace engineering, and that's even how I realized that there is an intersection between like technology and aerospace engineering. So for me, it's not even at some point, maybe when I'm no longer scared of heights, I might like to I might like to see how far I can go, right? But even beyond my fear or not, the point is there's synergy there, right? Like we talked about in the beginning before this recording started. Technology is amazing. Technology can be applied to multiple industries, and space exploration is one of them. And that just made me more interested in that field. And recently I've become interested in like I've been always interested in the metaverse. It's not today started, but now I've become interested in like artificial intelligence as well as aerospace engineering. And I'm just looking for ways that I feel like I'm still learning a lot about aerospace engineering and how, space exploration is even possible and what works and what doesn't. I don't think I'm there yet. I still have a long way to go. I still have a bunch of things I'd like to read, but I find it interesting so far, and that's why we're here.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I feel like you mentioned a really good point. So many folks don't realize that when you think of aerospace engineering, everyone thinks, oh, physics or hardcore math and, nothing else. And it's the space industry is so reliant on programming with computer science, with technology. It is literally built
Yeah.
on computers. So just knowing that you found this intersection and now you're using your platform to educate people about this somewhat unique career that people don't necessarily think of on top of their mind when they think of space is amazing. And I'm glad you found your little niche interest in this and your curiosity has piqued you to come, a little bit, step your foot a little bit into the aerospace industry. And, I have to ask, throughout this career, I read your bio and as I mentioned earlier, I was just mind blown with everything you've accomplished and how you're continuing to grow in so many disciplines, including now the space industry. Did you have any obstacles in your career so far, and how were you able to overcome them? And what advice would you give for individuals who might want to use their skill sets for a different industry?
Did I have any obstacles in my career? I think it's mostly the management thing because, like you said, there's so many things that I'm doing at the same time and trying to balance it all can be exhausting. But I think one thing that I have is I have access to wise counsel, and I'm honestly, truly, truly very grateful for that. So I would like to say that I've had a fairly easy career, because at every step of the way, either before a big decision or even when I'm starting to notice some patterns that don't sit right with me, and it's like, okay, I need to make a switch. I reach out to people and I ask, like, okay, is this thing a red flag, or am I just being paranoid? And I'm able to get advice. Sometimes people even tell me things like, I mean, I went to business school last year, not because I felt like I should go, but because interacting with my elder brothers and some of my mentors as well, one thing that all of these people had in common was that they've gone to business school, and beyond the teaching that business school gives you, beyond everything you learn when you go to business school, there's also the network that you can now tap into, like the community, the alumni network that you have at your disposal. And when they told me go to business school, I sat down, I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, let me go. And now that has opened new doors for me and new opportunities and things like that. So I wouldn't necessarily say that I've had like challenges in my career, because I have access to mentors and wise counsel. So the first advice I would give is that you should be teachable. I'm not saying that you should enter everybody's LinkedIn and start asking them to be your mentor, because the truth is, a lot of times these mentor-mentee relationships are like friendships. They are typical relationships that you service. So like how you would want to make a new friend is also how you would want to approach the mentorship conversation. You can't just enter someone's DM and say, I want you to be my mentor. It has to be given
Right.
somehow. And, it starts from there. It might be that you volunteered at one of their initiatives and they saw you as a prodigy. And sometimes they're even like, I want to mentor you. Or sometimes, when you meet them, it's like, oh, okay, um, I would like you to be my mentor. I volunteered at, this thing, and I was inspired by one speech that you gave or something like that, right? So the first thing I would say for sure is, be teachable. Whether you are learning from peers, you are learning from mentors, you are learning from courses or people that are far away from you, people that inspire you, be open to learning things, right, in your career. I think the next thing I would say is, for a young person, you have a lot of time to explore, so go ahead and do that. um don't don't put yourself in a box, because other people will attempt to put you in a box, so don't make it easy for them to do that. Explore, try a bunch of things, make sure you learn in public. I've seen learning in public changing a lot of people's lives, right? It's just because as they learn in public, they are unintentionally even building brands in a particular domain for the thing that they're learning. And the most important thing I would say is make deliberate connections. So networking, because I've said this thing, I even said it on social media a couple of days ago, right? People move around and people know each other, right? So let's say, for example, we're talking about making the switch. Let's say I'm a software engineer and I work in Amazon, right? And there are three of my colleagues. Somebody moved from Amazon to Meta. The other person is still in Amazon. Someone else moved from Amazon to Google, right? And I wake up tomorrow and I want to leave Amazon, and I want to maybe go to Cisco, for example. And the person that moved from Amazon to Meta is now an engineering manager in Cisco, right? And somehow people are talking, the hiring manager that, is looking at, the interview process, sort of like is friends with the engineering manager that, I've worked with in the past. And sometimes if I just go check on LinkedIn and see that this person I used to work with 5 years ago is now in Cisco, I can be like, recommend me for this role, please. Right. And that gives you a better chance at getting the interview. Doesn't mean you get the job, but you get the interview. Like, imagine if, for example, I want to switch from engineering to, let's say, products, right? You know me on our old team, I used to do some product things, right? Even if I was an engineer, I used to interact with customers. I used to volunteer to do like product related things, even if I wasn't necessarily a product manager by profession. And now there's a product role in Cisco that I'm going for. I can ask you to recommend me, because the truth is, if I had passed if I had applied to that job through the job portal and they had passed my resume down that job portal, it would probably get rejected because my resume doesn't fit the product manager type of resume. But I asked you for a recommendation. You've worked with me in the past. You understand that I volunteer for a bunch of product roles and I have a lot of volunteer product experience, but now I want to transition into the first role. You can recommend me, and obviously if I get that recommendation, it means I get that interview. And if I get the interview and I do my best to impress the people that need to be impressed, then I can get the job, right? So this is just one way that networking helps people if you are trying to transition. So if you're moving from company to company or from school to company, right? It could be school as well, right? Through either your lecturers, teaching assistants, or even your classmates as well. Like, you don't know where people move around and people know people. And people are one of the biggest resources in the world, because the truth is other resources were created by people, right? So yeah, it's important to tap into that network and make the best use of it for your career. I've been doing that so far. I think the biggest resource that I leverage is the people resource, and I will continue leveraging that resource until I cannot leverage it anymore. And I would advise anyone out there to do the same, really.
Yeah, I think that is one of the best pieces of career advice I've ever heard. I think that's like the key to any career choice, whether it be you're a young professional or you're changing careers midway, whatever it may be, whatever stage you're in. Finding that community, finding those mentors, developing relationships, and leveraging those to be able to grow in your career is one of the most essential pieces of advice. And I'm a student and I'm starting to, when I hear individuals like yourself tell me that, and I start observing how things are, relations and network and mentors take you so long in any field, in any work. And so I think that piece of advice is something I will definitely take to heart. And I'm sure every student who is as well, because people resources are the most valuable ones. And I think that's something that I can also advocate for just as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Now that we're able to learn a little bit more about, your journey, some of your advice as you navigated your career, as well as kind of how you got interested in space and computer science recently, my last and final question for you is, what makes you nervous and what makes you excited for the future of the aerospace sector? And how do you maybe see your role in the space industry evolving in the future? Because I know you just entered this space. So I'm curious to see how you maybe envision your role in the space industry evolving over time.
What am I nervous about? I'm nervous about getting it wrong. I'm nervous about, I mean, it's amazing, and there's a lot to be explored in the world. Even like there's a lot to be explored in space and underwater as well. I'm nervous about, getting it wrong, building something that doesn't, that getting it wrong, essentially, I guess. It's like, okay, and people die in that process. So that's one thing that scares me, and I'm still not sure how to wrap my head around the fact that that is a possibility, if we are being honest. um what am I excited about? I'm excited about it becoming a conventional thing, people taking trips and back at some point, or even building life somewhere else. Right. I also find that very interesting, and I'm excited about that. Um, what are my plans for, well, like, what are the plans for me in this new industry? I don't know. Right now, I am an enthusiast. I don't even think I'm at the point where I can be a thought leader, in this space or something. At best, what I can just talk about is how technology is empowering this industry. But I can't say so much about the industry because there's a lot of reading I still have to do based on my interests, right? I don't know what that means for me right now and in the future. But like I said, I'm excited about this. I'm excited about advocating for the industry because that's what I do, inspire people to take on interesting careers. So I see myself doing a lot of inspiration work, right? In this domain. But I don't know what the shift will be for me just yet. And I plan to take it one day at a time and see if I would ever make that shift. And or if it will just stop at advocacy. I guess we'll find out soon enough.
Definitely no rush to know anytime what you need, what the future holds for you. Taking it day by day is sometimes the best solution, as you will learn more about the space sector, about how technology will continue to evolve, the new opportunities that'll come up in the next 5, 10 years. So I think, the future is very exciting for the space industry, for computer science, for artificial intelligence role in space exploration. And so I really cannot wait to see how your career continues to evolve as the space sector grows and the space economy grows. And I just really want to thank you so much today, Adora, for taking your time to share your journey and how be an advocate for those around you and to uplift your community. I think it was really inspiring for me as a young professional who's into advocacy work to hear from you what that journey looked like, what your obstacles were, what was your inspiration and drive and the impact you're creating. It was very inspiring for me, and it was really great to learn about your journey. So thank you so much for taking your time to do this interview. I had a blast speaking with you, and I can't wait to maybe even meet you in person one day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.